Hey, hello, vinyl community, Beatles community, music community, tie-dye community, everybody's welcome here on the Matthew Street channel. How you doing? It's Matt, and I'm back, and I hope you'll indulge me. I decided after, many years and decades even, that I was going to, let it all go and just say the heck with it, and go get myself a real proper hair system. Being without hair for so many years at my age, and always wanting to have it, I said I've got to do it finally. I'm going to step up to the plate, spend the money, and go get myself a real decent hair system. So I hope you like it. I hope my money I spent about $4,000 on this system, and I hope you find it satisfactory, and I hope you probably don't even notice it, because I think it fits very well with my whole facial features and my beard and mustache and the tone of my skin and everything. I think that they did a really good job over at the hair system place there, and it was no, it wasn't Cy Sperling, it was Joe Sperling. I went to Joe Sperling and he helped me out here, so I hope you like it. This is the new me, the new Matt, and I'm sure that, all right folks, enough. I do these silly things. I say I'm going to do silly videos and be funny and all that. I don't know what it is. Back on with the John Lennon 1980 Mayfair glasses. The heck with this old costume wig. Okay, enough with the silliness. All right, I'm sorry. I had to do it, had to do it. Okay, no, I saw that little wig lying around. I think I last used it about a year ago for the anniversary of the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. I used it as a gag in one of my old videos then. You can go check it out. I think I wore it for the whole video for that one, but I said, hey, my top's a little cold today. Let me put something on there and have some fun. Okay, all right, enough of the fun. I'm back. Okay. To start this video today, I thought I'd give a plug to a little magazine that I get. It comes out 6 times a year, and I don't normally think of it. I've been getting this thing for years, but I said, you know what, I just got one the other day. This is the latest edition of Beatle Fan Magazine. I don't know how many of you out there do get Beatle Fan Magazine. It's a great little thing I've been getting for years, for a long time. Here's the latest edition, just came out. Nice picture of the Fabs on the back. You don't see too many pictures of the Beatles out on the golf course, let me tell you. So I grabbed that and to show you, and they have other good ones. This is one of the past ones. A couple of issues ago, they celebrated Magical Mystery Tour, and nice picture, color picture of George on the back. It's a great little magazine, folks. Great little feature that comes out. Let me put my little. It is a little chilly today. Throw my little Abbey Road hat on there. How's that? There you go. Abbey Road. There we go. Look at that. Okay, that's better. Okay, it's a great little featurette magazine that comes out once every 2 months. You get 6 issues a year for around $30 or so. If you're willing to spend the money, folks, it's definitely worth it. It's a cool little magazine. They're very collectible. They used to come in black and white. Now they're all color. Front and back are color. The inside's black and white, writing and pictures, but the covers are now in color. And it's just a great little magazine to get, folks. All you have to do is just go to your local search engine, put in Beatle Fan Magazine, and you'll be able to find the site for it and figure that all out, how to get it and everything, okay? So just want to give a plug to them, because if you don't get it, or if you've never heard of it, it is a cool little feature to get, okay? All right, back on to the topic of today's video. And as you can see from the title, if you're watching this, this is going to be my little Pete Best video, in the sense that I want to thank James Griffiths, my friend over there in the UK, James, Beatle James, as he's known in the Beatle world, but James Griffiths, if you ever watch his other channel. Great guy, James. I hope someday to meet him in person. He's a good guy. He's so knowledgeable about the Beatles, very insightful and intelligent in his video presentations about the Beatles, and other stuff too, but mainly the Beatle ones are the ones I focus on with James. And he's just a great guy. I hope someday to take a trip back to England. I was over there in the service, but I hope someday to go back there. And if I do, I'm hoping to find out if, James and I can maybe hook up and have a pint together. That would be kind of fun. So hopefully someday. But I want to give a plug to James because he's the one who gave me the idea for today's video. And I do recommend, if you haven't been to his channel, which I'd be shocked if you haven't, it's such a good channel, check out Beatle James's channel, James Griffiths. He's done some great videos, and one of his most recent ones was about the cover of Abbey Road. I highly, highly recommend it. I just watched it this morning. I haven't commented yet, but I will do so soon. Great, insightful video about the cover of Abbey Road and how it formulated and worked out to be what it was. He just did a great job. It's just such an interesting, fun video to watch, and he's done so many videos like that. But the one he did that inspired this one today was that he did a video about Pete Best. Just a generalized video about Pete Best and his role in the Beatles, and another great, insightful, intelligent video from James. And I commented to him and told him what a great video it was, and he wrote back to me. Oh, and in my comment, I said something to him to the effect of that, yes, I've met Pete before, and he's a great, gentle man and very personable man. And James said, oh, why don't you do a video about meeting Pete Best? And so, geez, I had never even thought of it, but I said, okay. So I thought I'd incorporate some of the Pete Best related materials I have and talk a little bit about meeting him and what led up to that and how the meeting went, and we'll go from there. That's all. So I thought that'd be a good idea for a little video to get one going today. So Pete Best, well, again, I'm not going to try to recreate James's video. I'm not going to try to give the history of Pete Best and all this. I'll just say that, a great man, as far as I could see from meeting him and talking to him. And I just think I kind of agree with James and Mark Lewison's take on the whole thing. I think, and I'll let you go see James's video for the take on it, but I pretty much agree with it in the sense that, what Pete's role was, why he ended up leaving the Beatles, and, what was behind all that. I tend to agree with Mark Lewison, and James seems to agree with that take on it. And so I'll put myself in that category of I'm in the Mark Lewison camp as to Pete Best and his role in the Beatles and what led to the release of Pete. Anyway, I thought I'd show a few things before I get to my story about Pete. I got a few albums here I can show you. Of course, this one Pete's on because this is the Japanese pressing of the Flag series of the Tony Sheridan recordings, and certainly Pete's on there. Here's another import I have. I got over in England of the Tony Sheridan recordings with Pete Best, and there's that nice picture of the Mersey Beat newspaper, Bill Harry's paper there. Beatles top pole with Pete sitting there behind the drums. Okay, so here's another version of the Polydor Tony Sheridan recordings with Pete. This one's a weird one. It's got the Mersey Beat Beatles top pole cover with the picture, and on the back it says the Decca audition tapes with another nice picture of the Beatles in their leather gear with Pete. When you look at the song titles, it looks like a lot of BBC stuff to me. It's not the Decca audition tapes, or at least I don't see anything that even relates to being a Decca audition tape. And it's printed in London on Berkeley Records. And you look at some of the song titles and you can tell it's not the highest quality release when you got a song like, instead of Crying, Waiting, Hoping, it's Trying, Waiting, Hoping. And another song called Bound by Love, I'm Sure to Fall. I mean, Please Don't Ever Change. They add and subtract words from the actual titles. But so it's not the Decca audition tapes, and obviously none of those BBC songs that I can see it would have Pete on them. They mostly would be with Ringo. But it's just kind of a unique little album I got overseas when I was in the service. And Pete is featured on the cover, so I figured I'd show it to you. And next vinyl I want to show you is obviously the Decca tapes. Pete is on the Decca tapes. This is a really good one that I got years ago. Unreleased, obviously unauthorized recording. but I thought you'd get a kick out of seeing that. It has a beautiful picture of them from the early days with Pete on the cover. Okay, let's see. Let's look at some CDs really quick. A couple of the Decca audition tapes again on a CD. That similar picture. This one has incomplete songs. It only has 12 out of the total songs they had. I think there were 15 total songs because I have one with 15, but this one only has 12. This one has the 15. A little different. This is by Yellow Dog Records, which back in the 80s, 90s, Yellow Dog was one of the top companies if you wanted to get some good unauthorized Beatles releases. Yellow Dog was the way to go. This is a cool one. I don't have the album of this, but I have a cool little homemade CD I got from someone of this, The Savage Young Beatles. I just always love that cover. That's just such a cool cover. So I thought I'd give you a little peek at that. Don't have the album of that. Maybe someday I'll come across one, but for now I don't. Let's see. Before I go into the meeting with Pete, one more cool little picture that was colorized of those leather sessions. Look at that beautiful picture. I just love this thing. I'm trying to get so you don't see any glare in it, but look at that picture. That's a great colorized picture of the Beatles with Pete in the leather gear back in the day, 1961 or so. Isn't that nice? Love that little 4x6. I did not meet Pete, but back in the late 80s, he was at a convention in Connecticut. I went to the convention. I forget what time he was scheduled to appear, but the way it worked out, I was not able to meet him. The line was 1,000,000 miles long. I exaggerate, but you know what I mean. The line was so long, and by the time Pete came to greet the fans, I wasn't able to partake in getting that line and wait the hour or 2 hours, whatever it would have taken to finally meet him. So I couldn't meet him back then in the late 80s, but I did get one of the old Instamatic camera pictures of Pete sitting at the table. I jumped in front and just took a quick picture of him as he was signing stuff for the fans. You can see he's much younger there. He's probably in his 40s, dark hair, dark mustache and everything. But there's Pete at a convention in Connecticut signing for people. I took that picture. Oops, okay, got it. As you can see behind me, I've got a little faux poster. It's not an original or anything, but it's kind of a cool little poster that was made up several years ago of the Silver Beatles appearing at the Cavern Club, January through the 18th, 1962. Pete Best, John Lennon, George Harrison, Paul McCartney, and it has the old Hamburg picture that Astrid took, and they kind of cut Stewart out of the picture, but I just thought that's a cool little poster I got. It was only for a couple of bucks years ago. I just thought it'd be a neat little memento to have, so I threw that up for you. I also have a cool poster. I can't think of the artist or the photographer's name right now, but I have a cool framed picture of the Beatles in the Cavern. Maybe it says it on here, and you'll know his name. I'm going to show you another poster I have of him. Back in 1982, Richard Matthews photographed Richard Matthews, November 1961. And I was able to acquire 2 of these. I had one of them framed, which is up on my wall here. Someday, you know, if I ever hit 500 subs or something, maybe I'll do a room tour as my little celebration of 500 subs, and you'll see it. But I have it's a 2, almost seems like it's bigger than 2x3, but it's a framed picture of the Beatles in the Cavern with Pete. Nice close-up shot wearing their leather gear. John hasn't even painted his Rickenbacker yet from natural to jet glow to black. And it's a great, great poster. I have it framed. It's a nice close-up picture. But I do have the second one I got back in 1982 to show you, so you'll see kind of what I'm getting at. Okay. I hope you can see that. It's a beautiful, beautiful image of the Beatles with Pete on drums at the Cavern. This one I haven't gotten framed. I keep it in a little tube temporarily until maybe someday I'll get it framed. But beautiful, beautiful posters that were like a limited run back in the early 80s. I got this, like I said, 1982. And the other one I had framed. This one I have not yet. But just thought you'd love seeing that, Pete Pete also wrote a book about his experiences in the 80s called Beatle, the Pete Best Story. Show you that. Okay. This is a great book with Pete on the cover called How They Became the Beatles by Gareth Pawlowski. Highly recommend this, folks. I'm sure many of you have it or have seen it, but those of you that have not, if you can find this on eBay or something, highly recommend it. How They Became the Beatles by Gareth Pawlowski. Beautiful, beautiful book with Pete on the cover with the Beatles. Another one that might be hard to find, but I highly recommend it, is by Bill Harry, editor of Mersey Beat. He put out Mersey Beat, the beginnings of the Beatles, and he did replica pages showing all the different articles and stuff of Mersey Beat back in the day. Highly recommend this book. I don't know how easy it'll be to find. I got this overseas in England many, many years ago when I was in the service. But if you can come across this, I highly recommend this Mersey Beat, The Beginnings of the Beatles by Bill Harry. Seek it out, but again, it's got Pete on the cover there. Again, I'm just trying to feature some things of Pete I do have. I'm not a completist. I don't have everything. I don't have the album called Best of the Beatles, which maybe someday I will get. But for now, I just want to give you a little warm up here before I tell my story. Remember by Mike McCartney, has Pete featured on the cover with the Beatles. So again, there is some good, cute, cool little product out there featuring Pete that you can acquire. And now on to my story. So, several years ago, Pete and his band put out an album called Hayman's Green. Okay, I don't have a vinyl of it. I don't even know if it exists on vinyl. Here's the CD. You can see I have it signed by the entire Pete Best band. Hayman's Green came out, and I want to say 10 years ago. I can't even believe it's been 10 years already. It seems like a newer album to me. But Pete, his brother Rogue, and 3 other guys, nice guys, I met all of them, put out this great album in 2008. Folks, I don't know how many of you have ever sought this out or have it, but I'm telling you, if you don't have it, look for this album. I'm sure you can get it relatively easily. Hayman's Green by the Pete Best Band. Such a cool, great little album, folks. Really well done. I got to give Pete and the guys credit. They put out a fantastic album. It's not like Twist and Shout rehash or, doing Cry for a Shadow rehash. It's very modern sounding, but rock and roll, power pop. It's got a cool new instrumental on here that's kind of has the vibe of Cry for a Shadow, but it's different. It's its own piece of music, and it's fantastic. I love this album. Hayman's Green by the Pete Best Band. So anyway, Pete put this out with his brother Rogue and the band back in 2008, and I think it was within that next year following the release of this, 2008, I think into 2009, Pete, Rogue, and the band went on tour, different parts of the world, and they definitely made point to come to the United States and do some shows. So Pete and the guys were playing at a couple of different locations. The closest one to me was about an hour and a half away in Massachusetts, but I wanted to see them. I had the album already, and I wanted to see the band. When I heard they were coming, I said, I've got to go. So I went to the show, and I said to myself, well, I got to have Pete sign something. I figured, I'd bring my CD with me, which I did, and the band did sign it. But I said, what am I going to bring for, something nice for him to sign? Now, I could have brought, my Silver Beatles poster, or I could have brought, the deck of tapes, or I could have brought the Savage Young Beatles CD. I mean, there's so many things. Some of you might think I'm crazy for doing this with such a beautiful piece of music here, or an album, but I took Anthology 1, my original, and I had Pete sign Anthology 1 for me. There's his signature. And isn't it kind of cool, right where his head was supposed to be, they put this fake torn image of the Beatles over his head, and he kind of made up for that by, when he put out Hayman's Green, he made sure that little piece missing where his head should be, where they have Ringo and George and Paul there. When he put out Hayman's Green, it's funny how he did that. You see what I mean? So I'm sure many of you know that already, but for those of you that didn't, I thought that was kind of cool. The cover of Heyman's Green features that little piece that's not there. Anyway, I always thought it was kind of funny how he signed right over where Ringo's head is. But I had him sign Anthology 1, folks. I said, you know, good for Pete. After so many years of being kind of, you know, thrown off to the side and whatnot, and not getting his fair credit and due, he's featured on 10 songs on an official Beatle album. Pete is on 10 of the songs on Anthology 1, and good for him. Happy that this finally happened for Pete. He finally reaped some benefits and some financial reward from being in the Beatles all those years earlier. God bless him. And he's on Anthology 1, so I had him sign it. So I'm proud that Pete signed that for me. So happy he did. Again, the show was great. He performed with the band. They did not only a lot of the songs from Heyman's Green, they did some oldies, you know, some old Beatle numbers that the Beatles would have played in the old days in Hamburg at the Cavern. They did a great live rendition of Cry for a Shadow, some of the early rockers and whatnot. Fantastic show. And after the show, they all lined up at a table, and that's where I was able to get Pete to sign Anthology 1, and I was able to get this beautiful picture taken by my wife. I hope you can see it. I know there's glare. I'm going to do my best here, folks. But it's hard. I'm reflecting everything here. But anyway, there's me and Pete. Me with my Boston Red Sox hat. Again, this is about 9 years ago. And here we are, me and Pete, arm in arm. And just so happy that's right after he signed my Anthology 1 for me. So a friend of mine did the nice little print photoshopping with, you know, darkening the surroundings and putting Pete's name down here, and I framed it. But just so happy to have a nice picture of Pete and myself together. So happy he signed Anthology 1, signed his new CD for me at the time, and again, the show was fantastic. So I can't thank Pete enough for doing that. He was such a gregarious, personable, friendly man, very humble, very soft-spoken, as you would imagine from what you've read about him. And, you know, whether, I won't get into, like I said, James said it so much better in his video about the inner workings and personalities of the Beatles and why perhaps Pete didn't fit in or did fit in some ways and didn't in others. But that doesn't matter to me. The point is, the man, he did his time. He spent 2 years in the Beatles. He was a Beatle. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for him with all the fame and glory and what came after the summer of '62 for them. But he was a Beatle, and he did his time with them. He played his live shows with them, and he's on 10 recordings on Anthology 1. And I'm so happy that finally, after so many years, Pete got his due and was featured on an officially released Beatles album, Anthology 1. So God bless Pete. Thanks for watching this. I was so happy to meet him at the show. Again, can't say, I don't know if they tour much anymore, but great show. If you get a chance to see Pete or his band, the Pete Best Band, go see them. Fantastic. And it was just so nice to meet him. He was so friendly, so accommodating. I know I'm going on and on. I just want to get everything in case you have questions. He was so friendly. You know, I asked him, I had to go around the table to get that picture of me and him together, obviously. I'm kneeling right next to him. And so I asked him, geez, do you mind if I come around? My wife takes a picture, and he was so gracious, like, oh, sure, come on back, you know, come around and, you know, get your picture. And just so nice, you know, so nice and accommodating. The fans, I'm sure he felt so good that day because the place was pretty full. There was a lot of fans there. It was like a 2 in the afternoon show, too. How many people go to shows at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the sun beating down outside? But there was a good group of fans there. And boy, they all lined up after the show to meet Pete and get his autograph. And I'm sure that made Pete feel so good. So I'm so happy I was part of that. So again, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my little humor at the beginning of this video and make you laugh a little bit today. And I'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed my little tribute to Pete. And God bless you all. Thanks and take care. Bye-bye.